Today, Olympian and professional skier Lindsey Vonn had a horrific skiing accident while competing in the Olympics 9 days after rupturing her ACL. Let's talk about it. Most of you probably would know what I'm talking about, but if you're not aware, Lindsey Vonn is an American professional skier who had come out of retirement and was skiing in the Olympics for the first time since 2018. But why she has been getting so much hype on social media over the last week is 9 days ago, she ruptured her ACL while skiing. And when I say ruptured her ACL, I mean a full rupture. If you don't know what an ACL is, it is a ligament in your knee that basically prevents your tibia, so this part of your leg, from moving too much forward in comparison to your thigh. It also is responsible for like pivoting movements of the knee. So it ensures stability, helps you walk, helps you do sports, run, all of that good stuff. If you fully tear your ACL, you now lose all stability, but you also lose your knee's ability to keep your tibia and your thigh together and stable. Now, a full ACL tear typically requires surgery and then requires anywhere between like 6 to 18 months of recovery, where you do rehab, physiotherapy, surgery, all of that, right? So you can imagine that when Lindsey said that she would still be participating in the Olympics just a few days after tearing her ACL, the world went a little crazy, rightfully so. I'm not going to sit here and criticize her or her team. I think ultimately it was her choice, her ambition, her career, her dream, whatever you want to call it. What I will do though is talk about my own experience rupturing my ACL skiing, and I just want to give you that perspective because I want you to understand what Lindsey Vonn was skiing on for the last couple days. About 5 years ago, I tore my right ACL after skiing for most of my life. So I'm originally from France. We ski from a very young age. If you can walk in France, you can ski. And so I had been skiing for my entire life up until the age of about 21, 22. And, you know, I was by no means a professional skier, but I was a decent skier, as most people are in France again. It was actually my first time in Mont Tremblant in Quebec. If you know, you know. Mont Tremblant is gorgeous, has really nice mountains and runs in comparison to most of Ontario. So I had spent the weekend in Tremblant to ski. And this was the very first day of the trip. We had done an amazing day of skiing. Weather was fantastic. The snow was not too bad. I felt good. I was pretty fit, like no major concerns, right? Had a great day of skiing, and I was with my partner back in the day, and I remember telling him, like, please, let's do one last run. I really want this. Then we'll go home. Like, so I remember really begging for that one last run. Karma. We ended up taking a black hill or black run, and nothing too complicated, but the snow was super icy, and it's the very top of the hill. I just make a turn, nothing crazy again. I make a turn. I don't hear the pop. I know people typically say you hear a really loud pop in your knee. I don't hear the pop, but what I do feel is my body basically, like, if the mountain is this and I'm skiing like this, I basically like fell over to the other side and began sliding basically like tens and tens of meters down with my skis just hitting the snow as I went. And I felt an excruciating amount of pain in my knee that didn't last too long, only a few minutes. If you've torn your ACL, you'll know. Anyways, that's a whole other story time, but eventually some medics had passed me and basically had done like a couple tests on my knee and had told me to just put my shoe back into my ski and try skiing again. I guess this is like the test, right? If you can ski, you're probably fine. If you can't, we have a problem. And I just cannot believe that Lindsey Vonn was skiing on that knee. Like, again, she's a professional athlete. I was not, but the sensation that you have in your knee with a ruptured ACL is the equivalent of like a spaghetti. So picture your leg being a spaghetti, and I'm not even exaggerating. Your tibia and your thigh feel like they're completely loose. So your knee that's typically keeping it together is no longer functioning. So spaghettiness is crazy. Let me try to demonstrate. So this was my right knee, and essentially in a typical leg, like, you have this movement, you can do this, and your tibia and your thigh pretty much stay in line, right? Like, my tibia doesn't move too far to the side. With an ACL injury, what happens is this is no longer a connector to your two limbs here. So you basically get like a twisting motion if you try to put any weight on it. So your leg kind of goes like this, and that's exactly what happened. As soon as I put my ski back in and I try to turn, my entire leg was like a spaghetti. Not only that, what's really, really common with ACL injuries is you have bone contusion, so severe bruising on your bones. And Lindsey Vonn shared in an interview that she had like pretty bad contusion. The pain, oh my God. Think about hitting your arm or just getting like a pretty bad bruise on like your body, right? And when you press that, think about how that feels, right? Even when the bruise is like this small. Think about your entire knee bone being covered in bruising. Your actual bone. Horrendous pain. All that to say, I think that what Lindsey Vonn did by going back out there was pretty inspiring. Like, she was probably like, okay, I'm 41, this is probably my last Olympics, like I have nothing to lose at this point. But I just cannot comprehend how she actually did it. Like, I know she was wearing a brace, but it's so hard to explain. Like, my demonstration hopefully did a good job of showing you that the instability you feel in your knee is crazy. And if you watch her fall, her initial fall is not actually due to the instability in her leg, but what happens is when she's in air and she's getting ready to land potentially on both her skis, you can imagine the instability in her left, I think it's her left, in her left leg, right? There was no way she was landing that. And when she did land, I cannot imagine that her knee was able to withstand that fall, that crash. So anyways, really, really sad to see. The latest update is that she's in the ICU, so just horrific. Sending her so much love for her recovery, but I hope she makes it okay with little mobility issues. Fingers crossed on that. Anyways, all that to say, I cannot believe that anyone would have let her do this. I really cannot, because there's just, it's so unreasonable. I understand why she did it. I'm not criticizing, but I think it's, as somebody who has lived that experience, I just could not imagine ever even imagining doing this, right? And this is why a lot of professional athletes take a year off when they tear their ACL, or at least 6 months. So anyways, those are my 2 cents.